Hey there, I'm Randy Zimnak, and in this episode, we're going to talk about how to win the battle with the city. Okay, in the last episode, we talked about the investor that got red flagged with his property for not pulling permits. So I have another lesson from that same property, right? In this situation, again, the 2-unit property that we thought we had when we were selling it, in this situation, I'm the agent. When the buyer went to figure out, okay, what are they really buying? It was identified by the city, the way they interpreted it, that it is actually not a 2-unit house. And the city actually, after going back and forth with the draftsman who the owner hired, where the draftsman was trying to present the facts, why they believe this is a 2-unit, and then the city was coming back with their facts saying, hey, we don't believe it's a 2-unit, right? Maybe, yes, on the plans that you submitted, it shows 2 units, but we can't identify it as a second unit, because if we do, then we have to allow you to have a kitchen, full kitchen with a stove, and we need to allow the buyer to rent it. Like, all these things will be triggered. And that's not, the current code doesn't allow that. So that's what they were using. The city was saying, hey, listen, the current code doesn't allow this. And previously, when the county had jurisdiction over this property, they actually approved it as a 2-dwelling unit, but the city that took over, which in this situation was Santee, took over jurisdiction. They've read those approvals differently than how our draftsman was reading it. That was the only difference, right? They were interpreting it one way, our draftsman was interpreting it another way, and that's where we had a misunderstanding. To the point where at the end of going back and forth for about literally probably a week, if not more, the city inspector wrote, there is an existing residence and garage which have county permits. There is an existing building since the 1970s at the rear of the property which may or may not have been used as a second dwelling unit, right? And then he listed a lot of facts of how he arrived at his conclusion, and then his conclusion was, there is no information to make a definitive statement that 2 dwelling units were constructed with proper zoning approvals / building permits on the site. At best, one might conclude that there is a legally permitted dwelling with a garage and a guest living quarters, not a complete second unit. So what do? This is the letter we get. This is his conclusion after going back and forth with our draftsman and helping us in this situation. Well, here's what we did. I talked to the owner, which in this situation is our investor client. I said, listen, let's go to the city together, right? Let's go, you, myself as your agent, right? And let's take the draftsman and let's see if we could ask to speak to a supervisor and meet with in this situation, it was a she. I was like, let's not just take this, no as the answer, because we did believe that the facts we had actually proved that it is a legal second unit, which will again allow us to have a full kitchen. It will allow us to promote it that it's fully rentable for the future buyer. So it's a big deal, right? We're talking about a big value change difference here if we win this or if we let it go the way the city sees the property as a guest house, with a guest house. So it was worth a shot, right? That's how I looked at it, because I talked to the draftsman, I got his take on it, I looked over the paperwork, and I truly believed that we could win this, right? Based on the facts that we got from the professional. So we did. We scheduled an appointment, and it was interesting because it was, everybody was in the room. It was the inspector that gave us the denial. It was the inspector's director in this situation. It was the draftsman, it was the owner, and it was me, right? Representing my client as the agent, right? Because I'm now dragged into this because now I listed the property as a legal 2-unit. We have an offer on the table. We're on the contract selling it as a 2-unit. And now we're telling that buyer, hold on a second, the city just denied what we thought they approved earlier when permits were pulled. And then what happened, the buyer and the buyer's agent started actually threatening us with a lawsuit for misrepresentation of facts. And that's a true story. Like, that actually happened. I was like, wait a minute, hold on, that's not our fault. This is what we were told by the owner. This is what the owner was told by the draftsman. This is what the draftsman was told by the city. So let us clear this up and then we'll get back to you. So I shared this with the director, with the inspector when we went to this meeting, as I call it, meeting of the minds. And we were all there and I shared my take on why I'm even there, why am I concerned. I let them know that there is a huge urgency here now, that there is a lot on the line. The buyer is threatening now me with a lawsuit. We might lose the buyer, right? Because they don't even know what are they buying. They're confused. Their agent is confused. All of us are confused. So here's what we have. And I told my investor client, I was like, listen, just let's be humble. Let's come from apologetic standpoint. Like, hey, listen, we didn't know. We thought we had a 2-unit. And we have the draftsman here that pulled all the facts, went back to 1970 records that he was able to pull, right? And he brought everything, right? We relied on the draftsman to basically present our case, right? We relied on the professional. And the investor client just sat there and I sat back and I didn't say anything besides the point that I'm being threatened by a lawsuit and I really want to figure this out, right? And that's why I'm here. And then that's what happened. The draftsman presented the case. It was very clear. He highlighted the couple items that he thought were enough to basically build our case that this is a 2-unit property. And at the end, they came back and they talked about it outside of the room, the inspector and the director, and then they came back and they approved it, right? So it was awesome, right? Like they approved based on the facts because, again, it could have gone in either direction, but we were so prepared. And we did, communicate how urgent this is and what is really happening. And then the director saw it our way. So it was a big victory. And at the end, we got the director to actually write a letter that this is a certificate of non-compliance, that this is a non-compliant property, but because it was done and approved by the county in 1972, that they will now grandfather this in, even though it's not non-conforming, as they call it, to current code. And then it's recorded now against the city records. So the future buyer that will buy this property, they will not have to deal with the situation the way we did, right? So it was an awesome victory. But the takeaway here is, really I would say is, don't let anger get in the way. Stay patient, collect your facts, but ask the professionals, right? Ask the draftsman, like in this situation. Gather all the facts, stay calm and collected, and just understand that they do have the authority, right? Their job that they get paid for is to monitor what really goes on in the city. They don't want people just to kind of have a run for whatever they feel like doing with houses, right? So they're trying to protect the neighborhood, and that's how we have to see them, right? And not come in with an angry face and be like, I'll show you kind of thing. No, we got to just come calm, collected, patient, show the facts, right? Bring your professional and let them just, from that, let them make the final decision. And if you truly believe what you have, then stand by it, right? And you'll be surprised that you could actually win a battle with the city. And that's how we create a win-win.